Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our guest, Pam Oslie. I'm Melissa Minnich, founder of the Sacred Soul Alchemy Mystery School and live event host for Humanities Team, a 501c3 nonprofit organization whose mission is to make conscious living pervasive worldwide by 2040. I'm coming to you live from Austin, Texas, and we're excited to have Pam Oslie join us today. Good morning, Pam. How are you? And where are you connecting from?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Melissa. And I'm in Santa Barbara with our May Gray right now.
Me too. Yeah. I want to welcome Pam Osley's audience, the Scene Network, those streaming live through the Humanities Team Facebook page, the Humanities Team YouTube channel, and Stream Plus members that are here in the green room with us. Thank you for being members, and some of you that are on camera, welcome everyone. Because this is a live program, we'll have time for questions and comments. Try to get your questions in within the first 30 to 40 minutes of the program. Post it in the chat, and you may get your question answered by Pam. So let me share a little bit more about Pam. Can you recall a time when you felt someone's energy around you and it didn't mesh with yours, or you felt like something was simply off, but you couldn't put your finger on it? Our guest, Pam Oslie, a psychic intuitive, medium, and aura expert, is going to be sharing about auras today. Pamela Oslie is a best-selling author, consultant, visionary, professional psychic intuitive, medium, and aura expert. She's appeared on ABC, CBS, NBC, The View, Dr. Oz, The Ricky Lake Show, Hallmark's Home and Family, Coast to Coast with George Norrie, Gaia with Lisa Garr, and hundreds of other television and radio shows. She's also been featured in many national magazines. Pam has spoken on the TEDx Talks, the International Forum of New Science, Fortune 500 companies, and many seminars for professionals in the psychology, education, health fields, and more. She's written 5 successful and popular books: Life Colors, Love Colors, Make Your Dreams Come True, and her latest book, Infinite You and the Truth According to John. She has been awarded the Holistic Transformational Leader of the Year award by the Global Association of Holistic Psychotherapy and Coaching. For nearly 40 years, she has had a very extensive clientele, including many celebrities. She's also had the #1 show for 11 years at a popular Santa Barbara radio station, which broadcasts internationally via the internet. She's the founder of auracolors.com, a site designed to help you create success, joy, and fulfillment in every area of your life. And she also developed Love Colors, and this is designed to help you find love and friendship by matching you with the people who have compatible aura colors. So welcome, Pam. I think we should dive right in, and let's just start with, maybe for those out there that don't know, what is an aura?
Right place to start, Melissa. So basically the aura, and I'm sure your audience knows it anyway, but the aura is an electromagnetic energy field that radiates off of everything. I mean, we're made of energy, right? According to Einstein and quantum physics, it's all energy. So it makes sense that we're radiating out or broadcasting out energy. And the way that I see auras, and I always let people know, because I've met people that see the exact same thing that I do, and I've met people that see different things than I do because they're a different type of healer or whatever. It doesn't mean that somebody's wrong and somebody else is right. It just means that we're having a different experience of this energy field. So the way I see it is I see lots of different colored bands layered out from the person. And the 1 or 2 colors of bands that are the closest to a person's body are the life colors. And in my experience, those are the 2 colors in the aura that don't change in a person's lifetime. The outer bands change all the time, depending on what's going on with someone. So if somebody gets really angry, I see red flaring up in the outer bands. Once they're not angry anymore, that red goes away. But the life colors, and that's what we'll be discussing today, usually people have 2 life colors. Once in a while, I've met someone who only has 1, but most people have 2. And they reveal a person's theme for why they came to the planet, their personality type, their careers that they're going to be compatible with or drawn to or more successful and more fulfilled in, relationship styles, potential health issues, how they are with money, how they are with family, even places to live. All of that is revealed in the life colors. And I believe that we all can feel them and see them. I mean, not everybody can see them, Melissa, but we've all felt them. You started out with that. So I'm sure that there are people that when you meet somebody for the first time, it's like you either feel instantly drawn to them or neutral, or there's certain people you don't want to even be in the room with. You're feeling their energy field, their aura colors, their aura. So even if you can't see them, which people can learn to do, we all feel them.
Oh, that's really fascinating. And I love when you say like life colors. So let's dive a little bit more into life colors. And we got a couple of really great clips from your programs on Humanities Team that we're going to be watching. But when we talk about a life color, you say there's these two bands that most people have that never go away. Is it your belief that this is something that we choose before we come in? Like, is this like I choose and this is going to kind of like set my experience for this lifetime?
Yes, absolutely. In my experience, and again, I am psychic too. So in my experience and medium, so I've talked to the other side. What I've discovered is that people, before they come here, they've created a life plan. You have flexibility while you're here, but a whole plan of what you wanted to experience here, what type of person you wanted to be, what types of adventures you wanted to have, who you wanted to meet. So you've chosen your life plan. And then just in case we forget when we come here, because it's really easy to do, we've left all kinds of breadcrumbs behind just in case we forgot. So the aura colors match. It should sync up with the astrology, your astrology chart, your iridology, palmistry, numerology. They should all coincide to give you hints to help you remember why you came to the planet.
I love that. So let's back up a little bit because I'm really curious a little bit more about your story. Like, so you read auras, you see auras, you say most people can feel them, but maybe not everybody sees them. Like how did you get into working with aura fields in this whole experience? And how did you find out about these, like the life colors and the other pieces?
Okay. Well, in 1984, which means I was a baby. No, I'm kidding. In 1984, I went to hear a psychic speak. He was a shaman from England, and one of my friends dragged me there and said, "You need to come here. This guy does psychic readings." So I went there and I walked into the room, and he looked at me and he said, "You up here in front of the group, you know how to do this too." And I went, "What? What? Are you kidding me? I have no idea what you're talking about." Anyway, he pulled me up in front of the room that night and told me to start telling people what I picked up about them psychically. I didn't know I could do that. So I'm in front of the room. I started tuning into people. I started recognizing things about people. I was getting images. Like, for example, the woman over to my right, I saw the spirit of a little girl next to her. Melissa, that's the first time I'd ever seen that. I saw the spirit of a little girl. So I knew this woman was pregnant and I knew she was going to have a little girl. The woman didn't even know she was pregnant. She went to the doctor shortly after, found out she was pregnant, and she did have a little girl. So I was tuning into people in the room that I'd never met before and I was getting details about them. So it kind of freaked me out. But then I realized things from my past doing, oh, that's why I knew that. Oh, that's why I knew that about the person, or I knew that was going to happen. So it started putting the pieces together. A year after I started doing psychic work, intuitive work, I kept exercising and getting stronger with that. I met a woman who could see auras. She had synesthesia, which means people can look that up, but it's a cross reference. So people taste colors, or they hear food. It's like they cross different capabilities or abilities. Anyway, so I met her and I had her come up to Santa Barbara to do workshops, and she would describe people based on the aura colors because she could see the aura. And I found out that that matched with what I had been picking up psychically about people. And so I went, oh, that's a blue aura person. Oh, that's a yellow. Oh, that's a green. And so then basically I started tuning into people and finding out what they were energetically or color wise, just psychically. And then within a year of being able to do that, I developed the ability to actually see the aura myself. So I didn't have it from birth. A lot of people have it from birth. I encounter a lot of children that see auras. It's interesting.
So this is something that can actually, most people could probably develop then.
Absolutely. I believe it's a natural ability that all of us have, including psychic abilities and telekinesis, all of that. They're natural abilities. We just haven't been trained to believe in them. Or a lot of people start out that way, Melissa, and then they're taught not to see it or not to be intuitive or not to see spirits on the other side. So we've suppressed it, but they are natural abilities. And we're developing more and more into those abilities, in case I'm sure you've encountered that with some of your other speakers.
Yeah, absolutely. And so now that you have this ability, do you literally walk around seeing the auras of people all of the time?
The way I like to use the analogy is, if you're walking in a shopping mall, you know that everybody's wearing clothes, I'm hoping, but you don't always choose to focus on what they're wearing. I do the same thing. I don't want to see it all the time, but there are certain aura colors that get my attention really big. Like violets have huge auras, so it's really hard to avoid seeing a big violet aura walking down the street. Or if somebody's got a lot of red in their aura, that gets my attention. Otherwise, I just do my life.
Well, let's go to one of your clips from the Humanity streaming platform. Just this short one about your story.
So Pam, have you always seen auras?
No, actually I haven't. I've seen them now for over 25 years.
And how did you acquire this ability?
Well, the way I got started is actually I went to hear a psychic speak. And I walked into the room with a group of friends, big room, and he walked up to me and said, you come up here, you know how to do this work too. And I was totally shocked. I didn't go there. I was trying to find out what a psychic was. So he basically threw me in the water that night and said, I want you to tell people in the room what you see about them, what you get. I wasn't seeing auras at that time, but I found I was picking up information about them that I had no way of knowing about them because I didn't know any of those people. I knew one woman over to the side was going to have a baby. I saw a little girl standing next to her. I knew another woman was having problems with a green car. I knew about their personalities. So over the years, I've developed that ability. Then I met a woman who could actually see auras, and she started describing what she was seeing and what that meant to her. And it matched with what I was picking up psychically about people. So over about a year, I went, oh, well, that's a violet. Okay, now I get it. Well, that person's a blue, because I was noticing that different people there was a theme, and certain people had the same qualities as other people. So once I found out that the different aura colors matched a personality style, then I was like, oh, now I know what a tan is. Okay, I get it. And within a year, I actually developed the ability to see and sense the aura myself.
So when you look at someone, you can see their life colors.
Most people. Now, a lot of people have really big auras. It's about 6 feet off of them. So when people are really big, like violets, I can spot a violet a mile away. They have huge auras. Other people like tans, they tend to keep their auras closer in. They don't like their space being invaded. So for some people, I see the aura. Other people, I can sense it. Other people, they hide out. They don't want to be invaded. So then I can sense who they are psychically, and I can tell what their aura is based on that.
Okay, let's dive more into the different colors, because some of the fascinating things you just said from that clip was one, like you can spot a violet from a mile away, like their auras are really big, but tans are smaller. And so why the difference, and in what are their life paths, and what do the different colors mean?
Okay, well, first of all, I see 14 different aura colors. And again, most people have 2. And the reason they have 2 is either to balance out both the colors so that they've got they've got 2 sides to their personality, and or to add booster to what they're here to do. And so I see 14 different aura colors, and I categorize them into 3 different families. The physical colors, and those are the people that process predominantly through their physical senses, their physical bodies. So those are red, orange, magenta, and yellow. And then I see the mental colors, and those are the people that process life predominantly through logic, analytical, their minds, their facts, their data. And those are 4 different types of tans, believe it or not: sensitive tan, abstract tan, environmental tan, and sensitive tan, abstract tan, logical tan, and the other one that I said, and green. Those are all the mental colors. And then there are the spiritual emotional colors. And those are the people that predominantly process life through their intuition, their feelings, their emotions. And those are blues, violets, crystals, and lavenders. So those are the colors that I get. And probably the people that are probably watching this course, this interview, are predominantly probably violet, blue, yellow. So I can tell you, well, let's start with you violets. Violets are, best way to classify them is probably old souls. They're the global humanitarians. Violets came here to help save the planet or shift the consciousness of the planet. They want to educate, empower, and inspire, and they need to reach the masses. Violets have a big mission here. So I see the violets, the ways that they want to reach the masses. Typically, I see them in these careers. Either one, the arts or the media. So they're performers, musicians, speakers, actors, directors, something that uses the media or the arts to affect the masses, to get messages out. Or I see them getting involved in teaching or psychology, or I see them getting involved in, and not all violets like this, so keep an open mind, politics and law, but I see most violets feeling like they want to get involved in causes, whether it's to help humanity or animals or nature or, help the planet survive or shift the consciousness. So those are the categories, those are the careers I usually see violets in. And by the way, people that are violets, they have felt ever since they were young that they had something big to do here, that they were different, that they wanted to do something they didn't. Most violets don't want to do regular 9-to-5 jobs. Those are the tans or the blues, the people that want security and stability. Violets value freedom. And what's important to violets is freedom to do their passion, what they came here to do. They're usually leaders, so they usually like to do their own projects, their own businesses. They love to travel. Usually violets end up traveling. If they get too afraid to travel, there's just some trauma going on because that's not a natural thing for violets. So violets in power, I see an in power and an out of power side. Violets in power are charismatic, dynamic, visionaries. You see how fast I'm talking with you, Melissa? That's because you're violet. So violets, tans do this. Tans are very logical, analytical, practical. They're usually engineers, accountants, bookkeepers, computer programmers, very detailed, factual. They like working with the details and the facts. So tans process step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Violets go 150. I have this vision, this dream. And so I have to talk really fast with violets or they get bored. So it's a lot get accused of being unrealistic dreamers. The things that violets want to do here doesn't seem practical or realistic. But if violets don't listen to that vision and their inner voice of you're here to do something bigger and you need to make a difference here and you need to reach the masses, then they get depressed or they can get scattered or lost, because usually with violets, there's like 20 things they want to do or they don't know which way to go next. Okay.
I find it so fascinating because I can remember the first time that I interviewed you, which has been over 5 years ago now, and you told me I was a violet, and then just everything that you listed, and I'm like, yep. Like it's amazing to, as someone that to understand who I am, and then to hear all of these things that you've said and be like, that's everything. Like it's like the easiest. I love astrology. I love numerology. I love all of the things, right? But this is like such a pinpoint into like, if I know my color, if I know something about that, then it helps me to lead myself in that way, because like my astrology as a Cancer says that I should be a homebody, but I'm not. I've been to 60 countries. I travel all over the world, right? And so it makes sense to me when you say this, this color and these things that really make a difference for each of us, and the power that we can use with these colors. So let's go some more. Let's find out some more about some of these others.
And the reason I do this work is to help people understand and validate who they are, because a lot of, especially violets, they get stuck in jobs and they're so miserable. They're working at 9-to-5 jobs and they're like, I've got these bigger things to do. So it helps people validate who they are, gives them permission to be who they are. And it helps us get along with each other. It helps us understand each other better instead of thinking we're supposed to be like everyone else. Why can't you be like me? Why can't you think like me? It's like, oh, you're a blue, or oh, you're a yellow. Okay, I get it. I see what your mission is here. So you probably have blues listening too. And you have blue in your outer bands, by the way. Okay, but you're really a violet yellow, Melissa. So I'm a blue yellow who's added violet. Anyway, blues are all about love, relationships, being in service, helping people, but it's more about being in home. Blues are typically teachers, counselors, and nurses. They tend to be the most emotional color on the planet. So we blues can watch commercials and cry. If somebody else in the room starts crying, a blue will cry right along with them. So blues are very spiritual. Every blue song spoke to God or some version of that when they were little. They're very psychic. They're very intuitive, besides being emotional. The priority for blues, number one, is love, 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 love. And when they're little, most blues have the Cinderella complex. They want to be with Prince Charming, get married, have a home, maybe have a family, where violets usually want freedom. Violets are like, oh, I don't know, are kids going to hold me back? Is marriage going to hold me back? As long as they've got partner or family that allows them to make a difference out in the world and have freedom, they're fine. But blues value security and love and service. So blues come from the heart. They just come from the heart. But it's really all about, blues usually work one-on-one with people when they're counseling. If they're teachers, it's still very much about each individual child in the class, where violets have to reach the masses or they get bored. You violets outgrow things too. And blues are one of the only colors that can stay in the same career or job their whole lives because they're so loyal, they're so monogamous, they're so committed. So in power, blues are very loving, intuitive, giving, nurturing, and very spiritual. When blues are out of power, meaning the downside of blues get into victimhood and martyrdom. They don't know how to say no. They can end up being doormats because they don't want to say no and make somebody feel unloved or hurt somebody's feelings or have them not love them. So blues can be manipulated by guilt. Anyway, blues are some of the most emotional, loving, spiritual people on the planet. Now, probably some of the other colors you've got watching right now are yellows, because yellows are very curious. Yellows, and you have yellow too, but man, you've got a lot of violet. Oh boy, have you got violet. Yellows are the big kids on the planet. They're playful. They've got a sense of humor, which is interesting because violets are very intense and passionate, and they've got a drive. And yellows just want to have fun and laugh. And yellows, if they had their way, wouldn't be working at all. Okay, unless it was fun. So
definitely got some yellow in there.
Yeah. Yellows are the big kids, so they're playful, and they came here. Yellows came here to bring joy to the planet. Blues came to bring love. Violets came here to transform. Big mission. Yellows want to bring joy. They want to make people laugh. They want to make people happy. They're pleasers. They're joyful. So you don't want to crush the spirit of a yellow. So yellows, if they work, because yellows would prefer not to, and yellows want variety. They want to do some of this and some of this and some of this and some of this, be spontaneous. If yellows work, they either get into the creative field, so they're artists, musicians, writers, something that's creative, or they get into the healing fields. So I see them a lot becoming healers, energy workers, massage therapists, yoga teachers, veterinarians, doctors, they're healers, or they get into the physical world, which is sports, gardening, anything that they can work with their physical bodies. Yellows, and what yellows need is nature, 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 nature. Yellows have to connect with nature. So jumping around just for a second, for violets to stay in power, for them to stay balanced. When I say in power, I mean fulfilled, balanced. Number one is they have to meditate. They have to have alone, quiet time so they can connect their vision to their heart, to their higher self. Yellows, to stay in power, need nature. They need to stay away from negative addictions because yellows are the most addictive personalities on the planet, and they need to keep a sense of humor. So the positive side of yellow is they're optimistic, they're cheerleaders, they're fun, they're playful, they help people feel more optimistic and better. The downside of yellows is they get flaky, irresponsible, procrastinate. They can get into addictions. Yellows have to watch out for drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, caffeine, chocolate or sweets, overeating, sex, video games. They're just very addictive. And yellows only do that stuff when they're afraid of something, when they're unhappy, or there's something that they don't want to face. So they'll distract themselves with addictions. So, and yellows can heal their own bodies. They're the perennial Peter Pan, so they can live the longest. Betty White had blue and yellow, and George Burns was yellow. Bob Hope had a lot of yellow. I mean, they can live for a really long time as long as they're happy. So those are the yellows. I'm jumping around. The full course that you have is very in depth. I mean, I know so much about these colors, including how to stay happy and centered and balanced and live your full potential, and what you're like when you're off balance and you're not living your potential. And I give tools on how to get back into your power or back into your balance and your full potential. So that the course has got a lot of information. And then we have, I discussed the tans. Then I'm doing the ones that I see the most that are interested in this type of thing. Actually, tans are not usually interested in this because they want to know the scientific fact and the logic. And has this been proven? And is this a scam? So I don't see that many tans studying this. And then there are greens. Greens are the type A personalities on the planet. They are the workaholics, the CEOs, the bankers, the corporate people, sales, real estate. Greens are very driven to accomplish, very driven for money, I see them getting masters and PhDs and especially business things. They're driven to accomplish. They are some of the smartest. I say violets are really wise. They're just like violets can give really good advice. They just channel this higher consciousness through them. Greens are really smart because they figured out how to be an entrepreneur or whatever. So greens, when I told you violets go 150, greens go 1, 2, I got it 10, let's go. Come on. So I have to talk really fast with greens too. And greens in power create businesses. They provide jobs for people. They can accomplish anything they put their minds to. They write lists. Greens are list makers. It's funny because yellows don't like lists. So if somebody's green and yellow, the green will write the list and the yellow will lose it or not finish it because they rebel. Yellows are pleasers, but they also are rebels. They don't like being told what to do. Anyway, so greens write lists, they make a plan, and then they accomplish that plan. When greens are out of power, you don't want to be around any of the colors when they're out of power because greens are the most argumentative. They don't care who they step on up the corporate ladder. They will blame everybody else. They will argue. You'll never win an argument with a green because they're always right, they think. So greens out of power are sharp. They can be cold when they're out of power. They just are mean to people. When greens are in power, they're too busy accomplishing to take it out on other people. So greens have to stay focused on their plans and their goals. Greens are more goal-oriented, where violets are more mission-oriented. They have a mission. They're very humanitarian. Greens are not usually humanitarian, unless they've accomplished all the money that they want. Like Bill Gates is a green violet. He's got both. So there's the green, the business, and then there's the violet humanitarian. And violet's usually global humanitarian. So how many more colors do you want me to cover? Because
that's awesome. I think we got a real good understanding. And I'd love to know from the audience, are you one of the colors she just mentioned? If you think that you are, I fit into the violet or the yellow or the tan or the green or the blue, put it in the comments. We'd love to hear who's watching with us today. Whether you're here live in the studio with us or watching on YouTube, it'll be fascinating to see who are the ones that show up, the colors that show up for this type of thing. We're going to actually go to another clip from the streaming platform, about combination colors explained, and then we're going to come back in and dive more into these colors and the combinations.
So tell me about combination colors.
So a combination color, when somebody's taking the questionnaire and they find out they have 2 predominant aura colors, then they are a combination color. And it doesn't matter if somebody, they'll ask me, is it more important if they're a blue or a yellow, a blue yellow or a yellow blue? It really doesn't matter. Everyone's individual, and people sometimes they'll know if they are blue yellow, sometimes they're more blue. And some days they know that their yellow is more predominant and it's coming out stronger. So if I call someone a blue yellow or a yellow blue, it doesn't matter. Okay. So the combos don't matter. What does matter is how you're doing them, in power, out of power. And if you're doing more blue one day or more yellow one day. And it's also kind of important if people can keep them in balance. That's important, because if all of a sudden one aspect of the person takes over and they're being more blue and they're not having as much fun with their yellow, ultimately the person won't be happy. So once they know about both have to win. Both need to be happy. Both need to feel fulfilled. So it's important for people to keep a balance within themselves, and then it's easier for them to have a healthy, happy relationship.
So they can look at both colors and again learn from it and say, oh, I haven't been playing enough in honoring my yellow, so let me do that today to pull myself back into balance. Is that right?
That's right. And it also helps when people have two colors. If you find out you're a blue yellow and you find out that you're interested in a yellow violet, then what you're going to want to do is see how yellows and yellows get along, and then how yellows and violets get along, and then how your blue and their yellow gets along, and how your blue and their violet gets along. So you want to match up each of your different colors with the combination of the person you're interested in, so you see how compatible they are.
And then we have this whole new language.
Yes. You know what, Kim, this helps with all relationships. We're focusing now on the intimate relationships, but this can help people with their coworkers, their parents, their children, family members, siblings. It really helps with all our relationships. And to me, the more we understand ourselves and we understand what the different personalities are like, it gives us permission to be ourselves, and it gives us permission to let everyone else be who they really are. Then we don't try to force somebody to fit into a category we want them to, because they'll never be happy if we do that.
So you're really taking that teaching of loving ourselves first to a really tangible level by us learning our colors to know how to honor ourselves.
Right. Because if you're not healthy and happy yourself, you're not going to be part of a healthy, happy relationship.
I love the fascination with the combination colors and how they work together. And so one of my questions that I want to start with around this is, so you say we come in with like one or two really, focused light colors. And I also noticed that I had some blue in mine also. And so what I'm curious is does the strength of some of those like shift over time in your lifetime? Like if you're in the empowered state or the disempowered state, like does one get stronger and then the other one less, or are they all around the same and you keep these color combinations always?
Well, in my experience, and I never, especially yellows don't like being told what to do. So I would never tell somebody they can't change their life colors. But I have never, I think in the 40 some years that I've been doing this, I've only seen a handful of people change their life colors, only because they fulfilled it already. They fulfilled what they came here to do with that. So now they're going into their outer bands and adding more of that. So what's important when you find out you've got two colors is some of the colors can be really compatible. So then you don't fight within yourself as much. But a lot of times there's a difference. So for example, and then you got to learn how to get them to blend, to get together. So what I said earlier is both sides have to be happy. So for example, if somebody's a blue and a yellow, blues, it's love, relationship, loyalty, long-term commitment, Cinderella, right? Yellows like their freedom. Yellows like to play. They're big kids and they're Peter Pans, and sometimes they have a real fear of commitment. Okay. So then if somebody's a blue and a yellow, this is what I typically see with them. They fall in love with somebody who's not available. They fall in love with somebody who lives a long ways away or who's already married or has commitment issues. And so then it's like, then the blue gets to fall in love, but then the yellow has their freedom. Okay. But that doesn't make the person happy because now they don't really have either one. So when both sides are fulfilled with what their blue likes and what their yellow likes, and that person gets really happy and fulfilled. Or like violet yellows. Violets have this big mission to accomplish, and they really need to play big, and they want money for freedom. Greens want money for nice things and cars and mansions and power. Violets want money for so that they can accomplish their mission here. But yellows, the first thing a yellow will say to a violet is that going to be a lot of hard work? Or that's scary, or maybe people won't like me if I do that. Violets already have this fear of being appearing arrogant and know-it-all and bossy. And so yellows are like, no, 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 we shouldn't do that. We're not going to fit in. You need to play it smaller. So then the violet gets frustrated and the yellow's running away. So to learn how, if the yellow feels like it's going to be fun or it's going to heal people, then they'll be in alignment with their violet mission. So do you see they both sides understanding the needs, priorities, and life purpose of both of those colors really can help you not have inner conflict.
Beautiful. So we've been talking about how these combinations show up within ourselves and how to align them, within ourselves, like a violet and a yellow, or a blue and a yellow. But what about compatibility? Because one of your courses is love colors, right? It's like, how do I use this for love and relationships and and that? So what are good combinations, and how do I find out like who's compatible with me with my colors so that I can have better relationships in my life?
That's a really good question. So, for example, I'm going to go to, I haven't talked about reds yet. Blues are very spiritual, loving, emotional. They really want to bond emotionally with their partner. And blues out of power can get very needy and very doormatty and very giving themselves away just to find love. Reds, for example, are very strong. They're very physical. They're not typically emotional. They're usually not emotional except for rage or anger or passion. So people like Madonna's a red, and Sean Penn is a red, and Russell Crowe is a red, and Lady Gaga. They're very strong, physical. Marilyn Monroe is a good example of a red. Dolly Parton, they're very physical and either voluptuous and sensual or hardworking and, work the earth, and I'm a construction worker or something, a football player, and they don't like sharing their emotions very much. So if a blue is getting attracted to a red, they're going to be really unfulfilled unless the blue can support and understand the red. And then blues are not usually that sexual. Reds are very sexual. So there can be a problem here unless they really, there's a way to support each other to really make it work out as long as you understand each other. So that's an example of colors that are going to have a harder time being in a relationship. Now, blues and yellows, believe it or not, can be very compatible as long as, the thing is blues are very drawn to yellows because blues are very motherly. They mother people, they nurture them, they take care of them, they counsel them, they help them. And yellows are big kids, so blues are very drawn to yellows, like, oh, I'm going to take care of you, I'm going to love you, and you make me happy. And so then the yellow's like, oh, no, 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 you're going to trap me, I need to run away. No, you're gonna make me grow old and grow responsible, and I don't want to do that. So as long as the blue can love the yellow, here's what happens with the yellow. They'll flirt with you. They're playful. They love to flirt. Hi, do you like me? Do you think I'm cute? Yeah, I do. You want to be in a relationship? Whoa, 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 whoa. I don't know about that. And then if the blue goes, oh, fine, this isn't working out, and they go away, the yellow goes, wait, don't you still like me? And they come back again. So that back and forth can be very frustrating for that combination in a relationship. But if the blue stays centered and loves herself enough to stay centered and feel safe with themselves, then the yellow starts feeling safe and goes, oh, okay. Oh, you're going to love me for who I am. Okay. Well, now, and then they'll be very compatible because they're both very kind. They're sensitive. They want to help people. They have very compatible personalities when they're balanced and in power. When they're out of power, no. Because then the blue is needy and victimhood. And how come you didn't remember my birthday when I did so much for you? And the yellow's like, hey, I don't want to be controlled by guilt. No, no, no. And they run away from that because they want to be with somebody that they make happy. And if they feel like they're making somebody unhappy, they avoid. They get into drinking or running away or getting sick all the time. So you see that there's 14 different aura colors. I mean, crystals and lavenders and indigos who they're compatible with. So that's why the course is there to help people in all aspects.
Beautiful. I do have one question that came in from the comments that somebody said that they had once been told that they had a white aura and then a blue, but it hasn't heard you say anything about white. Is there a white aura?
Now remember I said people see the aura differently. Okay. I have seen white in the aura. I don't see it as a life color. The person who taught me about the aura colors sees the same thing, and Nancy Tapp and I'm trying to remember all the other, Lee Carroll, I think, sees auras. Barbara, son of a gun, I'm spacing on her name right now because I'm so into this flow. Anyway, when I see white in somebody's aura, for every inch of white that's there, a major life question has been answered. So usually it's, who am I? The second question that shows up is there a God? And then the third question is, then it's like, does God know who I am? And then it's, okay, now that I know that, what do I do with that information? So every time a major life question is answered, there's more white in the aura. White's a very spiritual color. Now, when people first start seeing the aura, because I teach people how to see the aura, when they first start seeing it, and it happened to me too, usually the first thing they see is just white. And it's usually around the head because that's where the aura is the strongest, is over the head like that. That's why, remember all those pictures of saints with the halos around them? Okay, people were seeing their aura. That's how strong that the person's energy field was. So most people, excuse me, when they start, they see white around the head. That doesn't necessarily mean they have a white aura, but that's how I've seen it too at times.
Okay. And then the other color that I've been told this many times by people is gold. Is that the same kind of like gold white, that kind of similar?
Well, it's a little different with gold. Now, a lot of times people see gold where I see yellow. All right. So it's just like, oh, you're seeing it as gold when I see it as a yellow. What matters is when somebody sees gold in your aura, what does that mean to them? When I see gold in an aura, that is a highly evolved spiritual being. So Christ had a lot of gold. I'm sure Buddha had a lot of gold. Jamie's like, they're very advanced spiritual beings that have the gold.
Okay, beautiful. So how can we know what someone else's auras are, or how can we find a person with a particular aura color? Say I'm like on the hunt for a relationship or a new business partner or something like that, and I want to look for a certain type for this thing, a business, a relationship, whatever. How, are they in certain places, or, how would I figure that out for my own?
I've created different resources. So first of all, there's a quiz in the course. There's a quiz that you can take, number one. Number two, learning about each one of the aura colors, it gets so obvious. Like my brother is a yellow tan. Remember I told you tans are very logical. He can't see the aura, but boy, he's learned enough about it by hanging out with me that he can identify him. He goes, yeah, I know that guy at my workplace is a green. He talks like a green. Violets talk about what they see, dreams. I have this dream. I have this vision. This is what I see. So once you learn about the different aura color qualities and characteristics, they're so easy to pick out. And if you can't get them to take the quiz, that's a good way to do it and to be intuitive yourself. But then also in the course, there's a whole description of where these colors like to hang out, where they go for their hobbies, what they do in their free time, where they live. I mean, yellows, for example, are very drawn to warmer climates. So there's a lot of yellows in Southern California. There's a lot of yellows in Texas and the Southwest, a lot of yellows. Yellows don't usually like being in cold places like New York City or where it's very go, 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 go. Like New York is very green and violet. San Francisco is very violet and green. And Southern California is very yellow. San Diego, Santa Barbara, yellow, yellow, yellow. Play, sun, outdoors. And there's hobbies and where you can go meet them. I mean, like you can meet violets at like concerts, or jazz clubs, or, place they love music or they love traveling. So there's places that they go and there's places that they live. So there's a lot of that information in the course if you want to, and their hobbies, what they like to do.
So if a lot of the same colors live in kind of the same areas, right? Like if our yellows, I'm in Texas, so that means maybe, there's a lot of yellows in the area around me. Does it make sense that like, do yellows and yellows get together like on the love compatibility thing? Or, is it normal for two of the same colors to be compatible, or does that not work?
No, no, a lot of times it does. Like Ellen DeGeneres and Portia, her wife, they're both blue yellows. So that's very compatible. Um, a lot of times yellows are drawn to yellows. I mean, you go down to the beach here in Santa Barbara and go to the volleyball court, you are going to see a lot of yellows there. You go to an AA meeting, a lot of yellows there. So a lot of them get together because they're bike riding or they're hiking or whatever. So they're in the same places because that's what yellows like to do. And blues are very compatible with each other. It's tricky. A lot of my clients have felt like they're living in the wrong place. It's interesting because typically I see violets living on the coast.
Oh, well, I did know that up until just recently. I only moved here for my family.
Yeah, yeah. Violets usually like the coast. They like no boundaries, or they live internationally. So that's where violets are drawn.
Portugal.
Yeah, tans and blues typically are drawn to the middle of the country in the US. Different countries have different aura colors. Hey, here's something interesting, I think anyway. The United States was created as a violet yellow country, freedom and play. Okay. And violets are global humanitarians. So the US was created as a violet yellow country. They've been suppressed into thinking they're supposed to be a tan blue. So tans are supposed to get stable 9-to-5 jobs, get the paycheck, have security, be logical, stay safe, follow the same rules your whole life. And blues are all about God, religion, spirituality, not always religion, but spirituality, love, security. So a lot of those colors are drawn to the middle of the country because that's where family is and it's safe and there's boundaries and it's safe. Do you understand? Violets are more like, I need to push outside the boundaries. I need to have freedom, freedom, freedom. So anyway, so what's going on right now is countries like the US are struggling, not just because we're in a shift, but because the eagle, which is very, violet freedom, it's struggling to break free. It's struggling to break free to be its original violet yellow country instead of the boxed in tan blue, because tans like the box and violets don't like being in a box. They need to have freedom. So anyway, I think that's interesting about
No,
you.
that's absolutely fascinating. And I think this is the perfect time to watch the video In Power and Out of Power, because then we can dive more into like what happens when you're supposed to be a certain color and you're out of power, and like the country is shifting into this whole other thing.
So I hear you talking about being in power and out of power. Would you explain what does that mean?
Right. In power means the positive qualities, the full potential of a person. If they're in power, they're living their highest qualities, their highest attributes. If they're out of power, it's basically the negative side, the downside. It's somebody not living their full potential. So, for example, a yellow in power is full of life and energy and joy and optimism, and they're natural healers, and they're fun and healthy. Mm-hmm. Out of power, the yellow, the downside is they get into addictions, they get lazy, flaky, irresponsible. There are ways for people to get back in power. So if a yellow is out of power, they're doing the flaky things, the lazy things, or they're into addictions, then for a yellow to get back in power, there's always ways for each of the colors. Yellows need to exercise, they need to keep a sense of humor, they need to stay healthy, they need to stay away from the addictions.
And you talk about all this in the videos, yes?
Yes, I talk about the different personalities and what they're like in power and what they're like out of power. So if somebody's going to meet someone on the site, being with somebody who's in power, that's great. Out of power, they can watch for the qualities and decide if they want to still go out with that person, or if there's some way they can help them get in power, or encourage them or support them to get in power. And if they don't, there are no good or bad colors, but when people are out of power, they're not that great to be in a relationship with. There's just a lot of challenges and a lot of problems with that.
feel this idea of being in power and out of power of your colors is kind of synonymous with what we were talking about with the country, because if the country's not living into the power of the colors that it was built around, well, then we can see what happens, on a collective level, for all of us. We have about 10 minutes left. So if you have any questions that you want to ask of Pam, post them now, put them in the comments, and we will be able to answer them before we finish. So let's dive more into this idea of what really working with our, being in that power, and how this shows up, on a collective level, because I think this is really fascinating, because I didn't know that a country could have a color, or that we've had, these things, and how is that affecting us? What do you believe is affecting us collectively, because we're living in a state or in a country where it's not living into the power of its color?
Well, it's interesting because violets, again, I see 14 different colors. Violets are the most dramatic of all the aura colors. That's why so many of them get into the performing arts and become actors or performers or speakers, or, something where they can reach the masses. So violets tend to get very dramatic. So, and the way you wake up a violet is if they're not living their mission. And then, things can just get very dramatic and out of control, whatever. So what violets have to do overall is, remember, they have to have quiet time, alone time, so that they can get their vision connected with their heart and soul and something higher, a higher guidance, to be able to get back on track. And actually, then they've got to really go for it and live their dream, their mission here. And remember, I told you one of the things the violets get involved in is politics. Okay. So all the political stuff that's going on right now, it's there's a deeper thing going on with the shift that's happening in our consciousness to wake us up. Because remember, violets came here to change the planet, to improve the quality of life here. They want to educate, empower, and inspire people. So if violets aren't doing that, then they get a wake-up call, so that they get back into educating, inspiring, and empowering. And remember, violets are global humanitarians. So if that starts getting messed up, violets are just going to get the word I'm going to use is passionate.
Yeah, I can relate to the wake up call. My wake up call was in 2004 when I overdosed two of my friends in my home. And, I realized then that was I was living on a mission, and I feel like right now the country is going through a very similar, wake up call, right? We're going through that massive transformation, and we're waking up to new political systems, new food systems, new ways that we have to look at the world, and things that we need to do. So I can see how this relates to us as a country. We have a question from Rosa. She says, hello from Iran. And she wants to know, what about Iran? Is there a special color?
I haven't been to Iran, but when I tune into Iran, there's also a lot of violet there. Okay. So violets, do you understand? It's there's passion, there's power, there's spirituality or religion. It's there's a lot of power with the violet. Okay. So, and again, I haven't been there, so I don't know what the second color is. When I went to Ireland's very blue yellow. It's so sweet. And England is very violet tan, which are opposites. There was yellows, by the way. Violet's wake up call is when everything falls apart, or they get scattered, or they get depressed, or they're unhappy, or they feel restricted from their freedom. So they get dramatic wake up calls. A yellow's wake up call is usually physical, their health. So and yellows, usually their weak spots are their back, legs, knees. Okay, feet. They can get diabetes because that's a lack of joy. They can get liver, prostate issues again. So yellows, to wake them up, to get them out of their whatever, they're out of power energy. It hits their bodies, it hits their health. And then they go, okay, that's the only way to get a yellow to stop. Okay, something's wrong. I don't feel well, because usually yellows are full of life and energy and joy and happiness, right? So when that's not happening, yellows get sick.
Oh, incredible. So you have 3 courses on the Humanities Team streaming platform. You have Beginner Aura Colors, Premium Aura Colors, and Quantum Leap. Can you just give us a little rundown of what those 3 different ones are?
Well, the beginner's course, and I think that one's free, isn't it? I think that one's free. The beginner's course basically covers, there's short videos on every single one of the aura colors. And then if people want more, oh my gosh, the premium aura color course is huge. All 14 colors in depth. everything in there, everything that I've known over the last 40 years is about I think there's like 2 hours per color in there. So it's very robust, it's very full, and it should be able to help you with your relationships, your children, yourself, all of that's in there. The Quantum Leap course, that's my big granddaddy, granddaddy. That is helping people elevate their consciousness to a much higher level, and all these amazing advanced abilities. I help people with their intuition, their psychic abilities. We bend spoons in that one. We talk about parallel universes, how people can shift their lives by understanding and knowing how to navigate into parallel universes. So it's a combination of quantum physics, the shift that we're in, helping people navigate it and be empowered with it, and then also spirituality. So I help people understand all this stuff on a scientific level as well as on a spiritual level. So it's basically to empower and expand, because that's where we're going. We're in a new renaissance right now. So it's to help people really expand any abilities that they want. It's in that course.
I love, like, that's my favorite. I'm, working with quantum physics and working with the field in the mystery school. I bent my first spoon just I think about a year and a half ago, and I was like, wow, this, I was like, of course you can, because everything is energy, and understanding that. But I remember from one of our previous interviews where you talked about parallel universes, and I want you to share, when we have because we have a few minutes left, about how you ended up with your husband and your story about parallel universes, because I think everybody will find this fascinating, and then you can go over to Humanity's team and find out more.
Okay, in a few minutes, because it's a story, in a few minutes, basically what happened is I saw this, I met this guy, totally fell in love with him. He wanted nothing to do with me. I'm on the West Coast. He moved to the East Coast to be in a band there, right? And I was like heartbroken. And within 2 years, I started I learned about parallel universes, which means that every possible outcome, every possible story exists, and I can create any story. So I shifted into another universe, and I use the analogy of changing the channel on your radio or changing the channel on your TV, right? Look, you can tell I've had the old-fashioned turn the knob, push a button, change the channel. So basically, I learned how to go into a parallel universe where we were already together. And I noticed in the universe that I was in at the time, I didn't feel lovable. I didn't feel like I was going to be good enough for him. I felt like he told me he wasn't attracted to blondes. He only liked dark hair. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be really challenging. And I use it a lot now. So I changed my beliefs and my visions and I used my imagination to go into a parallel universe, which quantum physics is saying they have evidence that they're real. And I know they are because I experienced it. So anyway, after not seeing him or talking to him for 2 years, I did this meditation where I went into a different universe, and it was so real, Melissa. I could feel the sun on my body. I could feel the grass underneath me. It was so real. I saw him giving notice to the band he was in, breaking up with whatever girl he was with because she was too young, going to Iowa to see his meditating friends, going to LA to see his rock and roll friends, and coming back to Santa Barbara. And that's what happened. And we have been together now for over 40 years. So, but it's an easy way to change your life, so you don't feel like you have to go through. And I have nothing against therapy there. I mean, I've been doing coaching for 40 years, coaching and helping people change their beliefs and heal themselves, whatever. But it's a quicker way to change your circumstances. I've healed physical issues with that. Oh boy, I've got some dramatic stories about bringing somebody back from the brink of death by changing parallel universes. It's as easy as changing the channel on your TV. So it's powerful, but that's in the course.
I love that. Parallel universes, timeline jumping and shifting are some of my favorite things in the world. So I just had to share that with everyone. We have one more question from the audience real quick, and then we're going to wrap up. Do the colors correlate to astrology?
They're all breadcrumbs we left behind. So in case you got here and you forgot why you were here, you can study your aura colors or your astrological chart or your astrology, your in numerology, iridology, palmistry. They're all clues on who you are. And so they should all fit together. They should all coincide. And remember, people have free will, but also I've seen a lot of people suppress their real colors, thinking they're not supposed to be, like a violet, especially. I see a lot of violets getting suppressed. that they're not supposed to dream that big. And so they're living a life that's more tan. And once they find out who they really are, they think they've changed. But these things don't rule you. They reflect back to you who you've chosen to be.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us for a course in I See Your True Colors with Pam Oslie. Her programs, Beginner Aura Colors, Premium Aura Colors, and Quantum Leap are now available on the Stream Plus platform. Join Stream Plus now and gain immediate access to these incredible programs. You'll get access to Pam's courses and other incredible spiritual teachers and programs. And we're proud to say that Humanity Stream Plus is the largest global streaming platform for consciousness raising masterclasses and transformational education. We are a nonprofit and also give back with our one-on-one program, sharing our content with those who cannot afford the membership. I want to thank Steve Farrell, Dean Meyer, and the production team, Jim Gray, Garth Catterall, Nanette Kennedy Marthaler, and the rest of the Humanities team. Thank you, Pam. Bye, everyone.